Hey, what's going on? How's it going? Oh man, I'm not wearing a hat today. I'm deciding. Should I wear a hat? Not wear a hat. I think I'm gonna put it on here in a second. How's it going? Man, sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah, I had a couple of things to do. Like always, yeah, I'm gonna put the hat on. Gotta put the hat on. There we go. Man, my eyes are burning today. How's it going? Thank you for the follow. Right as I was getting ready to go live, Gunmetal. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Welcome. Good morning. Goes one, man. 2:14. Big time difference. You are dedicated. Either that or a night out. But I appreciate you being here. Takano, what's going on, man? How you doing? How's your Hackintosh going? How's all the things you have going? Did you get your iPhone downgraded to? I think you were going to like 6 or something crazy. Hopefully that's going well. And yeah, man, I've been super busy. I had to do some stuff for work today, and then I got a few of my bulbs up and going. Few of my Hue bulbs, you can see now the lamps have them. I'm still waiting on a shipment that's supposed to come from Amazon like any minute for the rest of my bulbs, as well as a couple of lamps, and then this RF unit that I can control via API. So that'll be pretty cool. So I was hoping to get it set up before stream today, but it's looking like it's not going to happen. Well, obviously it's not going to happen until Saturday because it's not happening right now. But I did get 2 more Hue bulbs in there, so it should look a little bit better when things change. But I'm not going to adjust the point value until I get everything just right. So that means it's going to be Saturday. So yeah, kind of stinks. But hopefully I'll have the RF. Not RF. It's not RF. It's IR. The infrared broadlink thing I was talking about to automatically change my RGB lights that are back there that run off this. So anyways, yeah, those are the things I've been dealing with. And then I had to eat. So I apologize I was late. I was like, do I eat on stream or do I just eat real quick and then go live? And I decided I'm going to eat real quick and go live. But super good though. Had some udon noodles. Super good. But yeah, anyways, what are you guys up to? Hakuya, hey Tim, how's it going? Good, man. How you doing? Takano, iPhone screen is completely dead. Still no clue about that as it's been sitting in the box. Yeah. Hey, Soccer Bum, how's it going? Hey, chat. Yeah, how's everybody doing in chat? Same here. 2:14 a.m. SA time. What's good? This is good. It's good you're here for sure. It is good you're here, especially at 2:14. Wow, you either can't sleep or you're a night owl or both. Takano, but my Hackintosh is working super well. Got audio working, graphics, driver, and everything else. Nice. Yeah, I've done Hackintosh so many times, and I used to run a triple boot for a long time. It was Windows, Linux, and Mac. And then I had a proper install order too. It was always like, I think it was Windows first to get the UEFI stuff. Then it was install Linux and have, I think, Grub manage the Windows boot. And then it was unplug every drive and then install Hackintosh because that thing is, who knows what it's doing when you're installing it. It would always wipe out my boot partition. I would unplug my Linux drive, unplug my Windows drive, install and configure and get Mac just right, and then plug my drives back in. And then I think I was using Clover, the boot utility. And then I would say, hey, when it boots, go to Clover, and then Clover would choose either Mac or Grub, and then Grub would say, hey, do you want to run Windows or Linux? So, but I ended up playing with them and adding them all to Clover, I think. But man, it was triple boots are not fun, but they're awesome once you have them going. But yeah, Hackintoshes are super awesome. I did it for a while. It was more just for fun. But I did have some problems, with messaging. Like, did you get messaging and stuff going? Because that requires, like, I think a serial number from an existing Mac. And so I had a Mac Mini that I had Windows on it. So I was using that serial number on Hackintosh, and just all felt weird. But after it was working, it was great, for sure. And I used the NVIDIA drivers, too, at the time. I don't know if NVIDIA drivers are supporting Catalina. Could be wrong. But yeah, Craven, yeah, man. What's up, man? Got the headphones, all 3. Eating stream. Give some ASMR. No way, man. That stuff is, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe some people like it. I don't. Always when I accidentally land on one of the channels, I'm like, huh. this is kind of odd, different. I'll say that. I mean, to each his own. But for me, it's kind of weird. And I don't think you want to hear me slurp my ramen or my udon noodles. But they're super good. My wife made them. I was like, whoa, these are super good. Soccer bum, yeah, man. Goes one or had to work. Or had to work, yeah, it's another option. So yeah, thanks for being up so late on the stream. Takano, I had to make a Hackintosh. I had made a Hackintosh before, but that was with Clover instead of OpenCore. Yeah, I saw that. I saw, like, I always did it on Clover. Actually, I did it before Clover. This is probably during, like, I don't know, Mountain Lion or some cat before they switched to mountains. Well, I guess Mountain Lion. I don't know. Yeah. Now I see how they jumped over to mountains. But anyways, I did do it pre-Clover, then I did it Clover, but I've never tried OpenCore. And I've seen Snazzy Labs, his video. I think he had a really good video on how to do it post Clover. That was pretty straightforward, I guess, more straightforward than Clover. But Clover was a game changer for me because I was like, man, this is so easy now. But you know, injecting the drivers and just like crossing your fingers and hoping it boots kind of stinks. And then for a long time, I couldn't figure out how to like persist anything you injected into the OS. It was like every time I reboot, my drivers were gone. But I don't know, it's super fun to figure out for sure. And then yeah, I used it for a while too because it was easier to develop on. I could have used Linux. I probably should have, but it was easier to develop on, especially for Xcode. That was my only option. And my Mac Mini just wasn't up to it, and I was running Windows, so I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna trade here, you know, not using my Windows license on Mac and vice versa. It doesn't work that way, but anyway. Takano, this is on bare metal, nice. You have a Hackintosh and Proxmox, nice, Goes. I was wondering, I know some people have done that. I keep calling you Goes, it's Geos. Sorry, Geos1. I keep seeing people mentioning that, but I haven't seen anyone doing it yet. So that's interesting that you got it working. That's awesome. iMessage in working well. So it's FaceTime, nice. So those problems are overcome. Or a dead Mac serial. There you go too. That's another option for a serial number. And you're using the fake serial, nice. So that gets around that whole need a real serial issue, because that was a real thing when I did it with Clover. And like I said, I had a Mac Mini that was old, and fortunately that thing worked. Like non-existent, yeah. Craven, you have any documentation for that? If so, drop a tag and hit me on Discord. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting to run on Proxmox. I remember seeing a VMware image floating around for a while, and it might have been Mountain Lion or one of the cats. And I tried that for a little bit, but you know, it was type 2 hypervisor. So it was just like, you know, it was running on top of Windows, and I'm like, that's cool, it works, but you know, the performance just wasn't there, even if you went full screen and everything. The soccer bomb, I built a Hackintosh back in the day with a tiny Dell Ultrabook. Yeah, nice. I think I even tried to put it on my, I don't know, I had a Lenovo netbook. I think I tried to install it on there, which, man, that Lenovo netbook was awesome. I had that for a long time. Man, I'm all off today. Shuckle Samurai, good evening all, how's it going? Yeah, how are you? 5 gigahertz. I had a Hackintosh back in the day, 10.4, 10.5 days. Was pretty nice. Just couldn't do any updates. Yeah, I think I got to a point too where I couldn't do updates. Updates were always scary. At least they were with Clover. I was just like, please, Apple, don't break it. You know, in one of their updates. And now I think they finally found a way to break it for everyone, and that's go to their own processor. And I mean, who knows? You know, they say they're going to support legacy, so all x86 applications for what, 2 years? And after that, you know, who knows if it's going to work? Because they're probably going to release an update for Macintosh that disables that, like they did for 32-bit apps, and then you're on your own. And I think that's going to be the end of Hackintosh, unless someone finds a way to emulate it. Circuit the Rat, thanks for the follow, appreciate it, welcome. Yeah, so I honestly think the Hackintosh days will be over in about, 2 years plus whenever, I say 3 years, because 2 years, they say, is going to be end of life for legacy apps. And I think that's after that update, that after that 2 years, it's going to be whatever, Mac 12. And that's probably going to be only their processors only. And then they're just going to deprecate any processor that was running on Intel, and you'll just have to run Catalina or whatever, Big Sur, whatever's out at the time that supports it. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure. Man, my eyes are burning. Sorry. Bansarov. Sup, dude? Found you today with a random YouTube video. Thanks for the help. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem at all. It's what I try to do is help people. So hope it helped. What did I help with? I have. I think a lot of my videos are help. So yeah, Bansarov, welcome. Yeah, just curious, how'd you find me? I'm always curious, like, how did the algorithm find you? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm glad I found you. And I'm like, yes, me too. That means the algorithm is working. But I always still want to know, like, what video was it that you saw that got you to me? Because I'm curious what Google or YouTube does. Geos1 started with a VirtualBox Mac OS installer to generate the image, then moved it to Proxmox. Nice. So you did like, yeah. Oh, I see. So you just converted the image to whatever the image format is that Proxmox can just use. Or yeah. Because otherwise you would have had it done like a P2V or V2V or P2P or whatever. And I don't know how that works. I would love to know more about that, and I will soon. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good to know. Pylong, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it, welcome. Takano, with OpenCore, it takes longer to set up, but it lives throughout updates. Good to know, because like I said, Clover was always just like, cross your fingers, like I hope nothing goes wrong, because if it does, all this time and stuff I have on here is wasted. But I think I got to a point where I was just kind of like, just let it rip with updates, you know, I just let it rip. But yeah, that's good to know. Like you do updates normal and acts like a normal Mac. Yeah. That's the best. That's the best kind of Hackintosh. It emulates Mac very closely. Yeah, I agree. That's the best kind, and that's the kind I had, or I thought I had, with Clover for a long time too. So it was worked out really well. Whoa, Tilburn, thank you so much for the sub. Really appreciate it. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, man. Good start to the stream. Thank you so much. Bansarov, Home Assistant, Docker setup with Kubernetes. Nice. Yeah, that one's, yeah, awesome. Glad you found it. Glad it found you, or glad you found it. Dang, another one. Genorian, hey, thanks for the sub. Prime, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, wow, they're rolling in. James K. Jr., thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Yeah, Home Assistant, love Home Assistant. Yeah. But that's awesome. Someone recently was having some problems with it, and so I wondered if you have any problems with it too, because when I did it and I run it, it's running fine exactly the way I say it should, but I don't know. Let me know, do you have any problems with it? Pylang, sup? Saw your videos on Proxmox, nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, no problem at all. Hopefully I'll have some more updated videos. I always go back to those early ones. It's funny, I say they're early. They were like 7 months ago, but that was kind of before I found my voice. Literally like how I should talk and how I should act on camera. Those videos are like, I have like zero emotion. And I know some of my YouTube videos still I mean, they're all dry. They're dry. But I think that I've learned a lot about how to, I guess, talk to the camera since then. So, but yeah, glad you like it. I'm gonna have some more for sure, and probably some deeper topics and some higher level topics. But anyways, I have one coming out Saturday, and I'm super pumped for it, like I am for all of them. But I'm pumped because this rounds off something where I can start something new, and the start something new has already started, at least behind the scenes. So anyways, yeah, that's awesome. Welcome. Thank you for finding me on YouTube, and thank you for making that giant leap from YouTube to Twitch. Really appreciate it. Thank you. The soccer bum. For me, I also found you randomly, probably because I like trying to learn Docker Kubernetes. Awesome. Speaking of Kubernetes, this kind of blew me away. Network Chuck, I think it was yesterday, released his video on learn Kubernetes right now. And I was like, all right, I'll ride this wave too. I'll ride his wave, because now I'm sure like that, my Kubernetes videos are now kind of tying into Network Chuck. But anyways, I thought it was really awesome that he broke it down, did an intro. He did it all from terminal. He did it with kube control. He calls it kubectl. That's okay. I won't hold it against him. But he calls it kubectl. Totally fine. That's one of the accepted ways. Anyways, fine to pronounce it because it's kind of like a shortened word and an acronym in one, or two shortened words. But for some reason, the CTL is pronounced as an acronym because it stands for control. But anyways, I thought it was really awesome that he did that video, and definitely worth checking out. If you'd like, if you're interested in Kubernetes and not interested in Rancher, plain old Kubernetes, Network Chuck goes through it, and I thought it was really good. Man, in that intro on that video, it just made me feel like, oh man, my videos stink. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I'm only like 6 months in, and he's been doing this stuff for a long time, but I don't know if he's editing his own videos or if he has someone edited them for him. But man, that intro and the bass drops, I was like, oh, how do I do that? But anyways, totally check it out. Not right now, but later. You should check out Network Chuck's video on Learn Kubernetes right now. It was good. It was so good. He's good. But anyways, I'm rambling about Kubernetes and Network Chuck. The soccer bomb several weeks ago, but have been tuning in and enjoying the stream. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Try to keep it open to what you guys want to talk about. And I was even talking to some people today. They're like, what do you do on your live stream? I'm like, whatever comes up, Because I think most of the time when people think of live stream, it's like, I mean, at least for me lately, my content is you guys. I mean, I'll throw it out. I'll throw it out there. I rarely have an agenda. I rarely know what I'm going to get into. I'm going to think on my feet the entire time. I'm going to answer tons of questions, maybe not correctly, but then like not cumulative. I can't even say the word right now, but we'll answer these questions together because a lot of the times I don't know the answer to some of these questions. I try to answer the best I can, but we have so many smart and intelligent people in chat that together we answer these questions as one. So anyways, I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. That was totally an aside about somebody asking me what my stream's about, and when I told him that it's kind of like an AMA about tech every time, and he probably thought like, oh man, that's gonna be tough or whatever, and it is. But at the same time, I have so many smart people in chat to help me out. It's awesome. It is so awesome. And so, my live stream is basically your live stream. I just say, hey, you know what? Like, this is our time to talk about whatever tech we want to talk about. Rarely do I have an agenda. Rarely, ever. Sometimes I'll ramble in the beginning about something going on I was just doing, but that's never planned. So anyways, and if at any point you want, more structured content, let me know. I think I tested the waters a few times on Discord and also on Twitter. And I think people just like to be able to come in, talk about what they're working on, talk about the projects, and get questions answered. So I'm going to keep it like that to keep it, I guess, kind of fresh. So, but, it's up to debate whether it's going to be like that forever. But I'll try my best to keep it interesting. So anyways, Takano, yeah, man. Geos 1, man, I don't know why it stars out stuff sometimes. My auto mod, for some reason, he gets kind of grouchy on stuff. So, but anyways, the soccer bum, why Home Assistant versus other options? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question. I wonder this sometimes myself. So if you want an open source home automation platform where your data stays on your own device for the most part, or on your device being your server within your home, Home Assistant by far is leading that way. They're plowing, they're just plowing the way for open source and privacy for IoT devices. So it's like, if you want something, if you're into that, like, it's a great choice. Then you have the big players. You have the Google, Amazon, and Apple, all playing in this area, doing things pretty good too, but again, all the data gets sent to them. They own the data. Whatever. They know everything about every device that you add to it. And some people like that. Some people don't. Some people like the simplicity. Some don't. So Home Assistant is a great option and an alternative if you don't want someone else to have all of your data. And there are probably other smaller ones out there, and maybe there's bigger ones out there. But Home Assistant is the one that I found. And so I was just saying this in Discord earlier, I think to Techno in our IoT channel, that I was like, I have 3 Home Assistants configured for almost every device possible. And I don't know why I do this. It's just because each one gives me something a little different, and I like to tinker. So I have Apple Home configured for every device that it can know about. And I say can because there's an asterisk there. Then I have Google Home for every device that it knows about, because it can know about every device that I own. And then I have Home Assistant configured for every device that it can know about. And so I put asterisks or air quotes or whatever around whatever it can know about, is because I have Nest. I've invested in Nest Protect, Nest Security, Nest thermostats, 3 of those, lots, so I'm invested in the Nest ecosystem, and Google and Nest pulled the plug on working with other companies. So that kind of stinks. So now I'm kind of like, okay, so Google Home is the one that can do everything for me. Do I want it to always be that way? No. Do I hope they change their minds and their policies? Yeah. Will they? Not sure. I mean, they totally pulled like an Apple move, but after the fact. Apple just locks it down from the beginning, and they're like, you got to play in our playpen, or, you got to come to our walled garden from the very beginning. And Nest was like, yeah, sure, certified, works with Nest, join our program, developers, sign up, everyone. And then they were like, just kidding. Now, Nest only, Google only. So I don't know. Hopefully it changes, because I always say this, like when big companies go to war or battle, the consumer usually suffers, unless it's on features or pricing or anything like that. Then the consumer wins. But in this case, when they're fighting over platforms, consumer loses. So then you have to start aligning everything you buy to their ecosystem, which is good for that company, but it's not good for us, because we don't want one brand of everything. We don't want one company for everything. But yeah. So long story short, that's why I use Home Assistant now. That was a long one. I need these cool story bros emojis soon, so you guys can be like, wrap it up. But anyways, Shuckle Samurai, anyone having issues using TrueNAS plugins? Great question. I can't answer that. Hopefully some people do. Can answer the question because I don't use plugins on TrueNAS. It's a super great feature, but I put everything in Docker and Rancher. But yeah. Geos1, I got your videos by searching Docker. Nice. I'm bubbling up for Docker. Awesome. Tilburn, hey, Techno 10, any pointers in controlling fans on the DB 1B2U from Quanta? Can't find any of those settings in the BIOS or BMC. Hey, thanks for the follow, VTCN. Thank you. Welcome. Pointers on controlling fans. Oh, I don't know. I wish I knew. So I'm assuming you're talking about a PC. I should Google this, but I'm not going to get distracted by the internet right now. I'm assuming you mean a PC, and I'm assuming they are PCM fans, like they can be controlled. If they are, I think the term is PCM. If they are PCM, and then they can be controlled smarter than if they weren't PCM. I think I'm getting the term right. Because if they're not PCM, then I think they trick it by just like pumping more or less voltage into them to adjust the fans. Yeah, I don't know. Like what settings, what do you, yeah, that's a good question. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, in your motherboard fan, in the cooling section, if you have one, it should give you every single header that's on your motherboard and allow you to turn on and off and probably control that fan. But it does depend on your motherboard too. So let me know. Yeah, do you see those settings in your motherboard? What motherboard do you have? The soccer bum, not yet. Still trying to figure out how I want to build my home server. Yeah, I tuned into it. It was pretty good. All right. Gunmetal. I didn't like his video. It was a sponsor ad for cloud hosting with mediocrum of surface level information. Gunmetal. Oh yeah. So I apologize. I did notice that it was like, hey, for Linode, he says he puts an emphasis on the wrong syllable, I think. that's the joke for syllable. Yeah, he says something like, he doesn't say, I would say Linode, but he says Linode or something. Anyways, I thought it was okay. I agree that, yeah, he had, that video was sponsored by someone and they were paying. I totally agree. Because it was like, yeah, spin it up now on Linode, and now here I am throwing that name out there. But, it was just kind of like, yeah, I see where you're going. I just thought it was interesting that all of a sudden he's talking about Kubernetes. I thought it was interesting at that. And I thought, spinning up, I thought the way he explained it was nice too, about how he was just basically, what was it, the Bob example, how he was saying, hey, Bob's not that busy, give him some more work. And that's kind of how Kubernetes, works. It'll look at your nodes and say, who can take on more pods? Okay, you get the work. So I don't know. I thought it was okay. And that the network chuck is kind of awesome. How short and sweet. Yeah, it was a short one too. I thought so too. He talked a lot about coffee. Maybe he usually does. But yeah, at the moment, trying to set up an ARM 32 V7 cluster in ARM 86 and 64. Still searching on how to build a multi-arch image. Yeah, good luck. That sounds interesting. That sounds really awesome. At some point, I want to do some kind of clustering on Raspberry Pis because I think that's awesome, and I would love to be able to shift some of my, nodes or pods onto Raspberry Pis for things like even just simple things like when I reboot my server or my infrastructure. I would love to still have one little thing on doing some work. But yeah, that sounds super awesome. Not exactly what you're talking about, but just building up a cluster. But yeah, man, sounds awesome. Takano, I had some issues setting up Hackintosh at first, but having kernel panics and not being able to connect to sensors. But it was just me not read the requirements in BIOSIN. Yeah, it sounds like Hackintosh to me. Kernel panics and like frozen screens, and then like you see the Tony Mac x86 Clover boot thing, and you're like, yes, I'm almost there, and then yeah, something may or may not go wrong. But yeah. See, Takano, but now I'm using for 3 weeks as a daily driver. Nice. I think I skipped over Shuckle Samurai. You went with TrueNAS on bare metal, try Proxmox, but the system I'm working with has RAM issues. Yeah, you don't want RAM issues for sure, especially if you're going to be virtualizing tons of stuff. Or I mean, you don't want RAM issues even if you're doing FreeNAS on bare metal because that's where the ZFS RAID lives in RAM. Yeah, at least that's how it does its checks. Shuckle Samurai, nice. I think I'm at the analysis by paralysis stage. I know that stage. It's when you want to start, but you're not really sure kind of where to start. But yeah, I know that stage too. Circuit the Rat. Hey y'all. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, hope you're well too, man. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Thanks for following a little bit ago too. Thank you so much. Soccer Bomb, interesting. Thanks for answering. I appreciate the info, Tim. No, yeah, no problem at all. Hopefully that answered it. I tend to answer questions with more questions, or at least kind of point you in the right direction as to why I make some kinds of choices. Because not every choice I make is, I say this a lot, but I never want to like dictate software, dictate architecture, dictate how you should set stuff up, because everyone has a unique environment, unique requirement, unique needs, unique clients. And so I just try to list some of the pros and cons and reasons why I did, and hopefully that saves you some time. I know that sometimes you just want a direct answer, and sometimes that's kind of hard, but I'll give direct answers when I can. Even answering that question was not a direct answer, so. But yeah, no problem at all. Easy TSA, yeah, I bummed into your channel with Rancher, Kate's Docker video, and made me redesign my home network. Awesome. And been learning more ever since it made me realize I was underusing my server. Nice. So I'm loving Proxmox right now, and I was just using VMware. You made Proxmox look cool. Awesome. I thought, to me, it looked cool in the beginning. So I was just like, this is awesome. The funny thing is, when I started using Proxmox has been out for years and years and years, and I was like, this is awesome. Why aren't more people talking about it? I mean, obviously, Level 1 Techs, Wendell, as well as Craft, Jeff from Craft Computing. They were talking about him. I'm like, and then there was Unky Joe, and then My Playhouse, like those two. They talked about it a little bit. Like I super enjoy those channels because you just see like so many things in the background. And you're like, what are they working on? But anyways, I just like started documenting stuff. I'm like, I'm into tech. I'm gonna start documenting stuff in videos and hopefully help some people. I'm glad I made it look cool because I think it's super awesome. I think it's super awesome, and I've been looking for a hypervisor like this for a long time, and I've used other ones, and that's not to say I won't use other ones in the future. But yeah, it's awesome. Takano, are you shucking drives for a NAS build, or should I spend extras and get the Iron Wolf NAS drives? That's a topic of debate a lot. So I personally have never shucked a drive. I know that, who is it, Bite My Bits? He loves shucking drives. He talks about it all the time. And I think he and Jeff have a little, they try to best each other on their streams or tweets or their content. And so Craft Computing's really big into buying used enterprise SAS drives. I know this about all these other people because I follow them. And Bite My Bits is really into shucking drives. Me personally, I'm into buying consumer grade or commodity stuff. And so me personally, what did I do? I bought Iron Wolf NAS drives. And just because the reliability, and the price. So when I compare enterprise new to enterprise used to shucking a drive, to just buying the thing off the shelf when it's on sale, I usually try to buy the thing off the shelf when it's on sale. And that's not to say that those other two aren't good options. It's just like, sometimes I don't have time to wait on eBay stuff that's used. And I know they give 30-day, 90-day, maybe even a year warranty. But with Iron Wolf drives, it's like, I think you get 5 years or something super long. So I went with that. I was like, I even bought them from Micro Center too. And I think I said this on stream before. I stood in the aisle for 20 minutes doing like the RAID calculator for ZFS, trying to decide, the best value too. So you wanna include that when you buy drives. You might go with Mirror right away, but if you're gonna do anything beyond Mirror, like RAID Z2 or anything else, do the RAID calculator so you can see the best value. I think if you just Google ZFS RAID calculator, it'll ask you how many drives, their capacity, and the price, and then you can see the value, what you get per gigabyte or what you're paying. So anyways, I went that route because I knew that, Iron Wolves had a great warranty. I did have to throw some errors, and I just opened a ticket with Seagate, and immediately they're like, we'll do advanced replacement, no problem. And oh, by the way, we're not going to charge you. We do have to put a $1 hold on your credit card until this clears and we get them back. And they're here 2 days later, swapped them out in FreeNAS, resilvered them, and perfect ever since. So, but you get that with any drives. But anyways, me personally, I try to buy new consumer grade stuff when it's on sale. That's my thing. So yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question for you, Takano, but I think they're good. I'm almost at the point too where I'm like, do I really need to get the Iron Wolves too? Because the bottom of the barrel, I won't even say bottom of the barrel, but the non-prosumer version of that drive is a lot cheaper. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna have 24 disks in my array, like why not just buy the cheapest, call them out, take them up on their warranty, swap them and resilver them and just call it a day. But I did go with the Iron Wolves though. I just, I've never had, drives, very specific drives for NAS. And to be honest, I've been super lucky to rarely have a hard drive ever die. So I kind of like the extra protection. I think they have data recovery stuff built into it too, but I would never have them do it unless all 12 died at once and be like, here you go, recover all my data, even though I can download all my data from Backblaze. But yeah, they come with free data recovery too. May or may not be important to you. Not important to me, but it's nice to know it's there. So anyways, those are some nice features of Iron Wolves. Okay, Hakuyer. I want to say your name right. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Hakuyer. I used Proxmox and liked it well. I'm going to try it out ESXi though. Yeah, good. ESXi is awesome. Super awesome. And if, there's a short list of things why I can't use ESXi, but I loved it when I used it. I think between Hyper-V and ESXi, I used those two together for most of my hypervisor needs for a long time. I mean, I've been having Proxmox now for 2 years, but I've been virtualizing, so I don't even want to tell you how long I've been virtualizing. A long time, a long time. So, and it was always Hyper-V or ESXi, and ESXi 5 was awesome for me because, they had very little restrictions, and it was awesome. But ESXi is awesome. It is awesome. It just, there's a couple things reasons why I can't use it right now, but yeah. That's exactly what you're saying, Gunmetal. Hey, Hellbent Avenger, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. ESXi is great, but has some restrictions that are quite painful if you aren't paying for it. Yeah, I agree. And, it has hardware restrictions too. I won't go into all of them, but yeah, let's do them real quick. ESXi, why I don't go with ESXi right now? One, it costs money. I get it that they're a business and they need to make money, but I didn't want to pay for a hypervisor right now. Two, hardware support. They deprecate hardware all the time. In updates, not even major updates, they'll deprecate hardware. That NICs are no longer supported. Proxmox is Debian based and has hardware support for lots of stuff. Three, hardware support, hardware requirements. Requires a hardware RAID, and that means you got to go out and buy a RAID adapter or set up a SAN or connect it somehow. And then four, I think I'm on four. The fourth reason is, if you're using it at home or you don't have a license, then they restrict the virtual cores that you can allocate to one virtual machine to 4, I think. And so for most people, that's okay. For me, not so much. Because I have 24 threads I can use on any of my virtual machines, and some machines I want to give it 24 threads, not 4. So, but super great product, super performant. I think they win in almost every performance test that's out there. But other hypervisors are in a close second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, we're talking about percentages, half a percentages of overhead at that point. But yeah, anyways, but. I don't mean to be so down on ESXi. Hopefully it doesn't seem that way, but yeah, those are some of the reasons why, I can't go with it at home. Yeah. Sucker Bum. I use VMware at work, so I'll most likely go with that over Proxmox, just learning certification purposes. Totally agree. There's a whole entire economy around, getting ESXi, getting certified, supporting it, providing livelihood for people who learn and work on it at work. I totally agree. Yeah. Genorian. I'm going to say Genorian. I won't try to, maybe it is. I use VMware because I use it at work. 100% agree. I agree. It's awesome. I used VMware at the time because I used it at work too. And then I started dabbling in other stuff. Gunmetal, everything certifying for VMware is through vCenter, which is not available unless you're paying. Yeah, yep. I'm surprised my work doesn't use EXI. My college did. I think my work uses Hyper-V mainly. Hakuyer, yeah. I mean, it just depends. That goes back to your, I think, so when I was kind of in that world, Microsoft spins it as, you already own the software. Why don't you use it? Because enterprises pay a lot of money to get access to a lot of Microsoft software, like big, huge contracts. And then, so I think what Microsoft says, I don't know, I'm making this up, not making it up, but I've heard stuff. Microsoft a lot of the time will say, you already use the software. Why don't, you already pay for the software. Why don't you use it? It'd be like if they were going to go out and look for a different Office product, or they're using Google Docs or something else. Microsoft would say, you already own the software. Why don't you use it? And I think that gets them back into their ecosystem. So I think that's why some companies still choose Hyper-V. Not that it's a good, bad, worse product, but it's probably because they already paid for the license or some of it. And they're like, man, moving our infrastructure over to, ESXi or VMware is going to cost even more money. And, businesses usually want to pay less money. But yeah, just commenting on why some companies do that. Gunmetal. I mean, luckily I'm a senior. I'm a senior and my work wants to invest in me, so the money stays in my pockets. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Invest in your employees. I totally agree. Invest in your people more than software and licensing, for sure. Gunmetal or VTCN. Have your work pay for a VMUG subscription. Yeah, that'd be another great investment into their employees. Yeah, I totally agree. Maybe out of their learning budget or something. They aren't going to pay for me for personal use licenses. I can use TestLab for work if I want. I was just explaining for people who want to use it at home, the major downfalls if you want to get certified. Totally agree. Yeah, for sure. VMUG Advantage is a yearly investment in my own ongoing education, but it's not for everyone. Hey, General Ryan, I totally agree. I made similar investments for myself, paid for it out of my own pocket. I did Microsoft Techno stuff. I have Adobe stuff right now. Not that I'm going to be a video editor, but I totally agree. Sometimes, you got to pay for stuff yourself, and yeah, take some initiative too. Yeah, good call. Techno Tim, Soccer Bum, ever thought about making a DAC board? I don't know, I haven't. That's interesting. DAC is in like music? Like analog music? I'm not familiar. I think that's what you mean, maybe. VTCN, really? They won't pay for it? My work pays for mine, plus MSDN, platform sub, and Pluralsight sub. Yeah, I think we should be working where VTCN is, because yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's totally nice when one, you get an MSDN through your work. Two, I think that's a Microsoft kind of deal. They're like, yeah, if they're a developer, you can throw it in, but then you got to watch it, because if it's your Microsoft account through work, then it's kind of like, maybe it's not, but then that software is kind of work licenses. But the Pluralsight one is awesome too. And I work for two companies who had Pluralsight licenses, and that's, consume all you want. It's like Netflix. You just go and binge on that stuff. And I love it. I watch Pluralsight for weeks and weeks and weeks. One company I worked at, they said I was the #1 watcher of Pluralsight. I'm proud of that. And not so much, it doesn't matter what company it is, but what platform I was watching, but I was proud of that, because they were like, you were blowing everyone away on the videos you were watching. And it's because I was interested in so many things, and I was making a crossover from infrastructure to a software developer, but I was still interested in infrastructure, but I had to learn all these software development terms. So I was just like every night, Pluralsight for, I don't know, months and months and months. But then still getting caught up on the things I liked, because once I transitioned to a software developer, it was like infrastructure was my hobby, kind of like now, where I'm doing my best at infrastructure and trying to stay relevant with infrastructure, even though I'm a software developer. And so I kind of enjoy that in between, almost just like DevOps. It's right in between, software developer and system administration, I guess. But yeah, Gunmetal, why would they pay for it when I don't need it? I have 24 access to our test environment. Yeah, it's all good points. Navika, I was just thinking about you earlier. Hopefully you have your home projects done. New project, looking at using the something API, EPA air quality index graph to show up on Grafana. We are surrounded by fires in the Northwest, and the current air quality is poor outside of my window. I totally agree. I've been seeing so many photos and so many reports about the air quality, and how the air quality is normally, 50, but for some reason it was, well, not for some reason, we know why, but the air quality was up to like 500. I see stuff on Twitter everywhere, like weather reports, they usually say sunny, cloudy, thunderstorms, snow. They're saying smoke. Now smoke has been classified as weather. It's crazy out there, and I hope everyone's staying safe. So, but yeah, that sounds like an interesting project too. And I'm super interested in that, forest fires or not. I would love to know the air quality. Just earlier I was like, saw the sun coming in, and I'm like, is that smoke? Is that dust? What is that? And I have carbon monoxide testers here and smoke alarms, but I want to know like air quality within my home. I know, like, I guess that and radon levels, but I want to know like air quality. So let me know how that goes for you. For some reason that's blanked out. It's probably URL, but let me know what the product is because I'm super interested in that too. And I would love to set something up throughout my home and log that as well because that's super interesting to me. Hockey here. I'm also in the Northwest and the air quality is not great at all. Sounds like a fun project. I totally agree. I am not in the Northwest, but I want to know about that for sure. Because I mean, air quality could, it runs the gamut. It could be anything from, like I said earlier, radon to carbon monoxide to just, I don't know, carbon dioxide. So yeah, it's super interesting to me. Air quality is 200 right now and is visibly down. I'm in Vancouver and we're getting all the smoke, no evacuation notice, but there are 4 fires surrounding us so far. Yeah, stay safe. Stay safe. Yeah, someone I was talking to, I think they were in Vegas. Or it was either Vegas or California. I can't remember who said it, but they said their air quality index was like 500 something. I'm like, that's crazy. General Ryan, for storage drives, pay attention to SMR when you go above 8 terabytes. Good to know. Good to know. VTCN, Black Friday is coming and up and debating whether to scale out my vSAN cluster to 4 nodes or convert my ousting nodes to all flash. Yeah, I don't know. How would you get the what are the trade-offs? What would you rather do? And what do you get from 4 nodes versus going all flash? I mean, all flash sounds obvious, better performance, but is performance a concern right now? And will scaling out to 4 nodes give you more distributed performance than going all SSDs? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about vSANs, but curious what you think about that. Geos, I'm using MergeFS and SnapRaid for my Media MB server, where I can mix disks in different sizes. That sounds awesome. That sounds really awesome. I mean, I run TrueNAS or FreeNAS, and I miss the JBOD days, where you can just throw in a ton of different disks and, similar to what Unraid does. I mean, obviously you got to have a couple of disks allocated to parity, but I kind of miss those days too, where it was so simple, or at least so simple. They made it seem so simple, and I get, okay performance, but a lot of capacity and still some protection as well. Existing. I see. Oh, wow, definitely not as bad here. North of Seattle, hope you stay safe. Hakuir, yeah. VTC, I remember in like 2005, seeing virtualization for the first time, blew my mind. Yeah, I think that was close to when I saw it for the first time too. I don't even remember. I'm trying to remember what the first, I know we were doing virtualization in the first place I worked, and I can't remember, didn't Microsoft have virtual PC also too? And that's where I got to actually play around with it, because everything else I was hearing about like in server rooms, and I didn't have access to that stuff. But yeah, it was blew my mind too. I'm like, what? There's an operating system running on my operating system? It's so awesome. It's so awesome. It's come such a long way. But I always say that, like, the technology itself has, I don't want to say plateaued, but the innovation in the actual virtualization, I feel like has kind of slowed down, but the things you can now run in a virtual machine or run in containers is just still going and skyrocketing. It's so awesome. Or what people do with the technology now is just like incredible. Yeah. General Ryan, have you looked at XCP&G? I know enough about it. So have I spun it up on my own hardware? No. Do I know about it? Sure. Yeah, I know somewhat about it. Tom talks about it a lot from Lawrence Systems. A lot of people in this channel talk about it. I'm the one reason, and I'll say this until they take it out of their documentation, the one reason why I can't go with XCP&G right now, or even evaluate it any further than looking at it, is because they don't support GPU pass-through for NVIDIA. That might be changing soon. They haven't said. In their documentation, they kind of hint that might be going away soon, and they blame it all on NVIDIA because it is their fault. Yeah, so that's why I can't use it. And also, I don't have extra hardware where I can spin up XCP&G and just like play with it. I mean, I could try to do virtualization, like nested virtualization, and test it out. That would be interesting too, because nested virtualization is pretty awesome. I've done it before. I think it was with Hyper-V stuff, where you run virtualization inside of virtualization, and it should just work. I think Proxmox supports it too, so maybe I can. But I do pass through an NVIDIA video card to one of my VMs, and so until they remove that, it's not a viable option for me. But I heard there's some changes coming with NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA might be singing a different tune now on virtualizing video cards, starting with, I think, the 3090. That was kind of what I heard. I think it was on Twitter, but yeah, but who knows? And so if NVIDIA removes that restriction, which who knows if they really will, then all hypervisors don't have that restriction, then it's fair game for everyone. So yeah, I'd like to check it out sometime. Haven't had the time or the hardware, and I have a requirement to pass through a GPU for NVIDIA right now. So, Lino Blade, please make a tutorial on setting up OpenVPN. Possibly. If I do one on VPNing in general, to be honest, not to show my cards, but I'll probably do it on WireGuard, just because if I'm gonna make a tutorial on just setting up a VPN itself, probably gonna be a WireGuard, because it's the new hotness and everyone wants to know about it or how to set it up properly. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm not at that point yet with my content yet where I'm going to, but it's on my list. It's for sure on my list. Not so much OpenVPN, but it'll be very similar. It'll be very similar for sure. Takano, the thing that really gets me when using my Mac OS is having the window, instead of control. Hey, I got something for you. Having used the Windows, so if they're backwards or mixed up, I don't know if that's the case. There's this thing called Carabiner, Karibiner, and it's a key mapping tool, and it's fantastic. Friend showed it to me because I have a DOS keyboard and they're all mixed up on Mac. They're like reversed. And so I just install Carabiner, tell it the command control is option and option is command, which is your Windows key. It's so mixed up. I don't even have a Windows key on this keyboard. It's like the DOS logo. So I think that's the Windows key. And then I toggle back and forth between my Mac and Windows all day long. So anyways, if you're on Mac and you need to do keyboard remapping, Carabiner is the way to go. It's awesome. It's free. I think it's open source too. Navy Cop, we've already had a number of employees I contract with Bonneville Power get evacuated. It's particularly terrible in Oregon right now. I agree. And I saw, Jeff, Craft Computing's photos too, and I was like, whoa, it is looking crazy out there. But yeah, stay safe if you're up there. No DAC board is a visual hub for the home. You can run it off of Pi. I'll post a link, but I'm sure it would be blocked. Just search DAC board for Google. Yeah. Or join our Discord. Post it in the IoT channel, because I would love to see it. So not informed on a DAC board. I thought it was going to be some analog MIDI thing you do on a Pi. That's where I went right away. But yeah. I'll totally search it. And now that you say that, so I have notes. I take notes. Whether or not they ever make it anywhere but this notebook is up to me. But wrote it down for sure. Dr. Bell, quick question. What is the proper language when referring to types of VPNs? For example, is OpenVPN a VPN and a service like PIA a VPN proxy? Ooh, good question. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I think under the covers, I think PIA is using OpenVPN because their client, you can tell from their config file, it's an OpenVPN client, and they rebrand the actual client. But is it a VPN proxy? I don't know. I think so, because multiple people connect to it, and then from there they tunnel wherever they want to go. I would maybe call it a VPN proxy. Yeah, I've never thought about that. Maybe, I think so. I'll call it a VPN proxy. But yeah, I mean, OpenVPN is obviously it's a VPN product, and I think it does or can do or does SSL VPN, or it can do more types of VPNs. But you're right, PIA, private private internet access is a company or a service that people use that to proxy to, I think. I never really thought about it. Takano, true, I completely forgot about Black Friday. We'll definitely try to get some deals. I totally agree. It's coming up soon. Locked Muffin. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Michael Art. Hey, Tim. How are you? I just saw your video on streaming with a Mac on Streamlabs. Nice. But I had questions and you told me you would ask them here. Hey, that's what this is for. All right. I wanted to know if it's possible to stream from a MacBook Pro 15-inch from mid-2014 with a capture card from Elgato. Sorry for the large text. No, you gave plenty of information. So is it possible on a mid-2014? I think so. And if you already have a capture card from Elgato, I assume it's USB because I don't think you can plug anything else into a Mac. I say go for it. So I would try Streamlabs on your Mac. I know this kind of stinks, but you're going to have to kind of test it, right? Because you never know what else you're going to be running. You never know how many sources you have. Like I have, you can see here, these are all browser sources. I can't even point right. That's a browser source. Those are sources. Like, so how you configure your layout and how many items you add to your sources or to your layout, overlay matter. Everything matters. And it's all configurable and you can tweak it to make it work for your hardware. You may not always like the output, right? So if I notice that this stream was stuttering or I'm dropping frames, I would immediately get rid of some browser sources or lower my my resolution or something to try to, take the best advantage of the hardware that I have. I would say go for it. If it doesn't work or you're not getting the best, so if you're getting terrible performance, you can drop down to 720p. You can try some stuff like that and toggle your encoders too, right? You can toggle on the CPU or you can toggle on Apple's encoder and try, toggling back and forth between those. If none of that works and you still have that MacBook, you could try regular OBS. So if you're not familiar, Streamlabs took the regular OBS and made their own version of Streamlabs OBS, but it's still based on OBS, and they connected tons of services. So you get alerts, you get all this cool stuff out of the box. But there's still regular OBS from OBS, which uses a lot less resources. But then the work's on you to connect to all the services. Connect to Twitch, connect to whatever, Facebook Gaming or YouTube, however you're streaming or recording. You'll have to connect to all those services and you'll have to set up your themes and everything, your overlays for you. So hopefully that answers your question. I mean, you're on a MacBook Pro and it's mid-2014. So it's going to have like a Core i7. I'm going to say that that's pretty good. That's pretty good for streaming. But it also depends on what you're doing on your computer while you're streaming too. Me personally, at least for this, I'm running a camera. I have a couple cameras, but I never toggle it. And I'm not playing any games. If I were to play a game, that's going to add, additional resource load to your machine while you're doing it. So it's kind of going to be up to you. If you're using the game capture, I assume that's for your camera, or it might be for your game, or I'm not sure what you're going to broadcast. But I don't know. Hopefully that helps. Let me know. Give me some more information. Are you going to be capturing your PS4 and streaming it, or are you going to be playing a game on your Mac? Are you going to be coding on your Mac or doing something else? Like, what will your Mac be used for while you're streaming? If it's just for streaming, I think you'll be good. If you're going to do streaming plus play Fortnite on a Mac, might not be so good, because it just depends. Let me know. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, thanks for stopping in too and taking me up on that offer to ask me live on stream. Thank you. VTC, VMware Workstation, was the first I'd ever used. After that, had a lab on VMware Server 2. Yeah, I think VMware Workstation was either that or Virtual PC. I can't remember the first one I used, but it totally blew my mind too. I'm like, yes, I can run Linux on Windows and I don't have to like dual boot or reformat stuff. Geos, I started virtualization with botches. I don't know botches. General Ryan, thanks for that answer. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for explaining PIA some more. Gunmetal, Proxmox does support nested virtualization, but it's not on by default. You need to go and edit some configs and reboot your servers. Nice. Yeah, I've always read that it supported nested virtualization, but I was never brave enough to do it, and never set it up myself. But I know that nested virtualization is a thing. VTC, do you still have to reboot when making network changes in Proxmox? I wanted to try, but that was a deal breaker for me. I don't know. I don't know what network changes you're talking about. I rarely have to make network changes or even reboot in general. Yeah, but depends on the changes. There you go. If you want to make changes from VM networking, no. But if you want to make changes to the actual hypervisor networking, generally, yes. Yeah, good question. So host changes, yeah. One of the big pains of Proxmox. Yeah, I rarely make those changes. So yeah, good to know. Thanks, Gunmetal. Chaos Machine. Techno Tim, if I informed right, the NVIDIA 3090 got a dual GPU and it should be usable for service. Yeah, that's kind of what I heard too. It's the 3090. Good call. Good call, because that's kind of what I heard too. I'm just like, I don't know if they've released any more details than like a little bit of notes on it. But at the same time, those are some expensive GPUs. I think they're like $1,500. So it's kind of like, they're like, okay, you're gonna pay for this tech, and I get it. Red Clay, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Like, you know, you're gonna pay for that tech, and some of it is gonna be in the form of better performance, and some of it's gonna be, as you say, Chaos Machine, in the form of a capability. So yeah, will I do it? I don't know. Do I want to spend that much on a video card to put in my server? Not really. Will I? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, my consumer grade ones that are passed through with Proxmox are doing pretty okay right now. So I have a 1050 and 1060. But yeah, it's interesting. Lino Blade, that's something called NVIDIA Grid that will allow GPU sharing VMs, but it requires subscription of very few are supported and listed on the website. True for Grid, but on the 3090, it's something else, and it's not necessarily, maybe they're rebranding or calling it Grid, but there's something coming on the 390 that will allow you to actually virtualize and share it, and maybe it is Grid. Now it's called Tesla, and I don't even think this is called Tesla unless when they announced it, they're calling it the technology it is instead of the branding they've been branding it as. But I understand Grid, I understand Tesla. This is new on the 3090, so you should look it up. Because this isn't that. This isn't a Grid card. This is a consumer grade 3090, super expensive, but supporting that capability too. So I feel like they're kind of rolling them into one, and now they're putting the features behind a paywall and not behind a license wall. You know, I mean, this might be the new way that NVIDIA starts doing things. Buy the super expensive card, sure, the tech's in here, but the license fee is included with the card, you know? And so that's something I just discovered, I think on Twitter, like 2-3 days ago. There was a tweet about it on the 3090s. So it'd be interesting to see, interesting for sure. I still don't think they're just gonna like let, you know, I don't know, let you virtualize anything. I think it's gonna be specifically this 3090. So we might still be passing through we still might be passing through cards is I guess my point. But I should look up this tweet because it was somebody who was there listening to the NVIDIA notes. And it's not what you guys are talking about. It's not Grid. And this is brand new with the 3090. It's not tech from, you know, today minus 2 months. It's tech from coming out in a month. Mike Lart, thank you so much. Very cool information. I will try it. But the main question was if Elgato do work on a Mac, because I have an Elgato HD, but my Streamlabs does not detect it. I was thinking on buying one of the new, I remember this comment. Yeah, HD60S, but I don't know if it will be compatible with it. It will be for gaming on consoles, PC. Yeah. So no, large text. No, I'm cool with large text. It means lots of details. Excuse me. I would look on their site to see if it's compatible with Mac. I know that kind of stinks, but I would specifically look on their Mac, on their, you know, their specs and see if it is compatible with a Mac. I'm surprised that any of their USB products aren't compatible with Mac, because I have the Cam Link, like the cheapest thing you can get to do 1080p 60 frames per second. They're hard to find right now because everyone has a Cam Link, because everyone's doing Zoom calls or doing this with the Cam Link right now from home. But I would be surprised. But anyways, I would go to their site and look to see, is it supported on a Mac? And if it is, I mean, good. I'm surprised that yours isn't now. You have the Elgato HD. I don't know anything about that because I've heard of the HD60 and the HD60S and Cam Link. Only because other than that, I use PCI Express devices and not necessarily USB. But I do have the Cam Link USB. It does work on my Mac because I use it all day long for Zoom calls, and I use the same camera. But they're really hard to find now. I would ask, like, what do you need from an HD60 or an HD60S that you're not getting on a Cam Link? Because a Cam Link is a really affordable solution. I know on HD60S you can do the whole rewind and use their software, and maybe that's something you want, and do the playback, and I think even record. But I mean, Cam Link's pretty good too. So yeah, I would check on their site. I would for sure. And maybe I can take a peek later too. Or if you hop in our Discord and ping me, we can talk about it there more too. But hopefully it supports it. Hopefully it does. Because I can't see them making those devices and not support a Mac. Like I said, I use a Cam Link on a Mac. Works totally fine. In that video, I used my Cam Link too. So hopefully it works. Hopefully it works. But check real quick. Yeah, hopefully. Sorry, I'm answering that with more questions. We're talking about VTCN, but the new vGPU cards are called the Tesla M10, M60. Well, not really new now, but successor to the Grid. All true, but 3090 is new tech. This is what I'm saying. I get it that enterprise cards exist, and they've been branded under Grid or Tesla. 3090 is doing something brand new, and NVIDIA just talked about it or released the notes about it like 2 days ago. So total, I think different tech is what we're talking about. I should find the tweet, but it was good news for people that wanted to virtualize, but at the same time, you got to buy the most expensive video card now that they're going to release, which is like $1,500. But yeah. Mike Lart, thank you so much, Tim. I followed your advice. I will go and look for Elgato. Thank you so much. I met your video. It was really helpful. You're pretty cool. Definitely follow from now on. Thank you. Yeah, no problem at all. Sorry, I was just like, yeah, we should look at the documentation, but that's what I would do. Because I would totally, yeah, like I said, like Elgato has been supporting more and more Mac stuff. I know that the HD, maybe one of their first iterations didn't. I'm super surprised that it doesn't work, because at the end of the day, all they're doing is turning USB into HDMI. I mean, I make it sound super simple, but what they're doing isn't like super groundbreaking. So I'd be surprised if one of their USB products that converted a signal to HDMI didn't work. But I do know that their lowest end one is what I have. The Cam Link does work, and the Cam Link's a little bit newer, but everything after the Cam Link, I would fully expect to work on a Mac, because I mean, it's a missed opportunity for them. So hopefully that helps. Brutal, GG. Did you get much benefits from Rancher on just a single node? Yeah, great question. This came up in Discord the other day. And hopefully what I'm doing this weekend will answer some stuff. But do you get a lot of benefits from a single node Rancher? Depends on what you call a benefit. So, first of all, you have options, right? You could use just plain old Docker, right? And if you use plain old Docker, you're not going to get a UI. So on the aspect of like, why would I use Rancher over plain old Docker? You get a UI, right? And you get to manage things really easy. And you get some extra Rancher features that you don't with plain old Docker. Then there's the question, like, what's the benefit of using Rancher and a single node non-HA versus spinning up all the HA and getting everything working? One, it's less complex, so you don't have to manage multiple nodes. And I know that's pretty easy with RKE or K3S. It's pretty easy, but a lot less resources. You don't need to spin up those nodes or manage all of those additional resources. But the third reason is one, I do it personally. Personally, I run all my stuff because I don't need high availability, at least for the stuff I run here. A lot of things can't even run in HA mode, right? So they're not even live or sharing loads or sharing resources. A lot of things in Docker just can't run in parallel unless you architect them that way. And a lot of the things you'll see, like Plex or anything else, they're not meant to be run that way because they weren't architected that way. They don't have support for either load balancing or doing offloading transcoding to some other thing while the front end is handling the connections and whatnot. Anyways, so the reason why I still run Rancher, even though I run a single node, is because I get Kubernetes and then I get to do Kubernetes stuff. And so then people are always like, well, why do you use Kubernetes then when you're not using, load balancing and you're not, you name it, all the stuff that comes with Kubernetes? And for me, it's because a couple of things, but one, I like the health checks, right? Two, I build software myself. And so I like to deploy my software to Kubernetes clusters the same way I would do to Google Cloud or, AWS or any other Kubernetes cluster. The software that I write, I can deploy the same exact way that I do everywhere else. So it's consistent. And then, I mean, you name it. I could use kube control. I can use, Rancher if I wanted to, or I can deploy it in CI if I wanted to. So for me personally, I run single node. Am I going to do HA in the future? Yeah, probably. But for me, a single node and even the Docker install is a really quick way to get introduced to Rancher and Kubernetes. I mean, you can spin it up literally in 60 seconds if you wanted. As long as you have an Ubuntu installed. I could run the Docker command to get Docker installed, probably 20, 30 seconds. And then I could run the Docker command to spin up my Rancher UI, probably another 10 seconds. Now I'm debating the 60 seconds. And then I'll give 20 seconds to walking through the UI and copying, pasting some config, even though it'd probably take another minute. So anyways, long story short, I use single node non-HA because most of my workloads can't scale anyways. And two, I still get Kubernetes on top of it, so I can do Kubernetes deployments to the Kubernetes API to my own, DevOps stack or my network stack or my whatever, my infrastructure, my Homelab, and self-host all of that stuff, just as if I were going to target some other Kubernetes cluster. And so, yes, it's a cluster, but it's single node non-HA. So that's a really long answer to that. But hopefully that answers it. But will I have stuff coming up on HA soon? Probably. But I don't want people to think like I got to spin up 3 nodes, I got to do all this stuff before I can even get started with Rancher. And so the Docker install non-HA way is a good introduction to it. And so I always try to start, because it's a pretty dense topic. Rancher and Kubernetes on top of Docker is a pretty dense topic. And so I had to figure out what is the easiest way to get started today? And then for someone to decide later on if they need those features. And so I wasn't going to just jump in and okay, let's build a 3-node cluster and I guess confuse the outcome with a lot of the implementation details. And so I would consider those implementation details that you may or may not care about. And if you just want to see Rancher, Docker, Kubernetes on your own stuff, going the single node Docker HA is the way to go. And then if you figure out that hey, I need high availability, I need to be able to scale wide or vertically, I'm interested in those other features, then going with an actual cluster bigger than a single node might be the way. But again, it's simplicity. And plus, when I introduce these topics in general, like I said this before, but I want to keep them small and consumable, and then later on build on top of those things. And so that later on is going to be coming later on. So yeah, long answer. But hopefully, hopefully that helps. But rest assured, I'm personally still run single node non-HA because I'm trying to keep it simple for right now. And I don't need a lot of the features from HA. But that's not to say like if I was at work, heck yeah, we're running HA. Everywhere else, Kubernetes, yeah, for sure. But then you got to look at your workloads too and decide, are they architected in a way that they can scale? And so most of the time you're gonna find no. They're not written in a way that they can, and it's most of the time by no fault of anyone's. But it's just like as soon as you start thinking about stuff like that, you just have to consider a lot more stuff, especially if you're writing data to a backend and or you're using Kafka for messages and who's picking up the message and who's actually going to take action. Like there's so many things you have to consider once you start to scale. And that's not to say that like, hey, you couldn't just have these nodes running with pods, the nodes running in general, waiting to spin up new pods on their node when your pods die or don't respond to their health check, which is also, that'd be awesome too. But anyways, I'm going on and on and on about this, but I will have some stuff coming for sure. But I was just keeping it simple. I keep it simple myself at home. But yeah. Anyways, hope that helps. The traffic integration through Rancher UI is worth it by itself, to be honest. Yeah, I think so too, Gumminal. And that's another, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's another consideration too, is because like, if you can't do the traffic certificate on, yeah, I think once you go beyond one node with traffic, I think that's where things get a little complicated, right? Because something now, other than possibly where you're routing that traffic, is going to handle HTTPS. And so, I mean, traffic definitely has an enterprise version. I don't know if that's the solve for it, but things get more complicated too if you have more than one node. But I totally agree. Traffic is so awesome. It's a little complicated, and I know there are things out there like Nginx, Proxy Manager, and stuff like that. But I think traffic and how they do edge routing is interesting and awesome and super easy. It's hard to get configured at first. Hopefully I've made that a little bit easier. Chris B. Ward, thanks for the follow, appreciate it, welcome. Jenna Ryan, NVIDIA is doing something with splitting the new Ampere cores in the 30 series depending on the workload, but I think it's going to be 3 to 6 months before anything practical comes out of it. Yeah, good information, that's new to me. Yeah, thank you. Joe Philly, do you know anything about security? Oh, that's a broad topic. I'm curious if I need to understand Linux security before I understand container security. Do I understand anything about security? Yeah, I do. Do I understand everything about security? No, I don't. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. That's a very, very broad question. But it depends on what workloads you're running. And there are ways to secure workloads within Kubernetes, within Rancher. You can separate them by namespace. You can isolate them within Kubernetes. You can, configure even firewall rules that even before they hit your Kubernetes API to restrict them. So yeah, that's a broad topic. There are lots of ways to, lock down the host machine that Kubernetes is running on. And there's lots of ways to secure or lock down those individual containers or those pods or even those nodes that are running. So, I mean, that's a huge, huge topic. But let me know what you're thinking. For the most part, though, I mean, security is going to be on you. Just like if it were virtual machines, how do you restrict that traffic? How do you ensure you're only allowing the people who want to go there, and the people being whatever, the network traffic that's getting routed. And you kind of have to think that same thing within Docker or Kubernetes too. But there's the added layer that, hey, these are services that are hosted within, I guess, like namespaces within Kubernetes. And so you can do some things to segment or or keep those separate as well with namespaces and configuration. So yeah, broad topic. I'd like to talk more on that too, but yeah, tell me more about what you're thinking. Or maybe that just answers your question. Let me know. Brutal GG. Yeah, a lot of apps. A lot of the apps I see aren't really meant to be HA, such as game servers. Yeah, good call. I've been fighting with Rancher in the past day or so to check it out, but I'm really comfortable in Docker CLI. Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome you're comfortable in Docker CLI. I'm okay. You know, I can run my Docker PS, Docker exec, Docker, you know, I can spin up Docker containers, I can look at their logs, I can exec into them, and I can do all that stuff too. But, you know, that's kind of where it ends for me. I mean, obviously I can stop them, start them, destroy them, pull them, you know, the basic stuff. But anything outside of, you know, 20 commands, then I'm kind of like, oh man. And it's easy, you know, just Docker PS, see all your stuff running, or PSA, see the ones that have been stopped. But yeah, that's awesome. And if you're comfortable and you're liking plain old Docker, go for it. That's awesome, because I mean, you're containerizing stuff already, and I think that's an awesome architectural decision for sure. I think so. And you're spot on with things need to be HA. I totally agree. I mean, you have to think about everything different when you start thinking about, okay, what happens if I run 2 of these? You know, what happens? I mean, if you can answer the question, what happens when I run 2 of these, you probably can answer the question, what happens when I run 100 of these, right? But answering the question, what happens when I run 1 of these versus 2 of these, is maybe changing how you build that software. And so maybe the maintainer of that code, or that, you know, the code that runs inside of the Docker container, didn't take that into consideration. I mean, Plex is a great example. And they're not thinking about even doing that for consumers, like, you know, run multiple Plex instances, or even break their transcoder out of there and let your transcoder be its own container and do its own thing, right? That's what I would like. But yeah, they don't architect it that way because they don't need to run at scale, or even have the, you know, time or effort or money to put into something like that. But if it's your own custom software, then yeah, you got to invest in that kind of stuff if you want to scale. You can't just say, well, I want to run 30, you know, and then meanwhile you have 30 whatever agents running that are all scraping data, that are all writing the same exact data to your databases, or 30 APIs that you're just APIs maybe. That might be kind of an easy win, depending on how you do your reverse proxy, but set up round robin, have one take a request and do it. But then you got to figure out sticky sessions, SSL, all that stuff. So a lot of consideration though too, but less so with some. But yeah. Techno Tim, have you done the Rancher certification? No, not at all. No, Rancher has no idea who I am. They're probably like, who is this guy? You know? No, I have no affiliation with Rancher. I've never done any Rancher certification. Everything I know, I've done myself or taught myself. And I don't know everything. Everything that I know, hey, Mario, Cesar, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome. Everything that I know about Rancher are just things I've done, things I've tried, things I need to do, or things I understand about other systems and how they work, and how I want to make those work here at home. Haven't done it, no. And most of the stuff I do is super pragmatic too. I mean, part of the reason why I still run single node non-HA. I'm just super pragmatic about it. Like, I want this capability, I want it to work, and I'm just gonna do it and implement it. And so, yeah, no, like I said, Rancher probably has no idea who I am. They're probably just like, who is this guy? You know, but no, I haven't done it. It'd be interesting. I would encourage, I didn't know they had a certification. That's awesome. Awesome for them. I would encourage you that if you are looking into something like that, maybe scope it a little broader, like Kubernetes. But only because, you know, I mean, who knows? I mean, Rancher's probably going to be around for a long time. They you know, were acquired by SUSE, so they'll probably be around for a long time. But, you know, yeah, I mean, you just don't want to get too vendor locked with that, or maybe you do. Maybe they have a certification. Maybe there's a lot of companies running it, and maybe they're going to pay big bucks every time you specialize. You definitely get an increase. You're more valuable, and so maybe if there's some company running Rancher and they have a certification, they're going to be like, yeah, that guy's totally certified, and we're going to pay more because he's certified. So yeah, I haven't done it myself. I ran Rancher at home because one of my friends said it's awesome. And I was like, and then he did a dev presentation on it, sat right in front because he was my buddy. But I was like, that is pretty awesome. And so ever since then, I was like, this is what I'm doing at home because it all goes back to, I'm a software developer, software engineer. I build software, and I want to put that software in a Docker container. And then I want to ship that Docker container to my infrastructure. And I know that I can do that with plain old Docker, but I want to automate that. I want my whole entire DevOps pipeline to be automated, just like what I did right before the stream. Deploy a new version of my bot. I just wrote the code, git tag, push tag. 5 minutes later, it's running new version of code in my basement, And so those are the things I want to do. And that's why I chose Rancher, because it was easy for me to get Docker and orchestrate Docker. And the reason why I choose Rancher 2 now is because it helps me orchestrate Kubernetes, and use Kubernetes everywhere else. So keep going back to that. But yeah, hopefully that helps. I don't know. Let me know. Is there such thing as a Rancher certification? Because that's awesome if there is. Great for them. Jorge Posada, I'm working on getting into a security career path, and my answer to that would be a solid yes. I totally agree. If you're not super comfortable with the command line, know the tooling, know where things log, how things fail, why they fail, and what happens when they do on Linux. Yeah, all great stuff, Jorge. All great stuff. You're going to be working with one hand tied behind your back if you're trying to do container security. That's a good point. Look at it broader. Yeah, totally. I 100% agree. Yeah, don't scope it to container security. You said it more eloquent than I could or did. I tried to say, it's going to be, look at it just like anything else. How would you secure anything else? And then think about, it's running in a container, by the way, at the end. But yeah, great. I won't say any more because that was great viewpoint, Jorge. Shulka Samurai, do you run the same Ubuntu server to run Docker, Kubernetes, and Pi-hole? Good question. So the way I have my infrastructure set up is real quick, and man, I can't wait. I can't wait for next week because I got some stuff coming on live stream. Maybe even Saturday, maybe, if I get stuff in order tonight, because this would help with this question. But the way that I have my infrastructure set up is that I have, I run Proxmox. So I run Proxmox Bare Metal. That's my hypervisor. It's only my hypervisor. And I know people have figured out ways to get Docker installed and run Docker on there. Totally fine if that works for you. But for me, Proxmox is only my hypervisor because one day I might switch hypervisors and I don't want to worry about I have these Docker containers running here. Now, how do I get them somewhere else? And I have switched hypervisors before, and that's why I just let my hypervisor be a hypervisor. Then on top of that, I run guest OSs or guest machines. I run Ubuntu. I have multiple virtual machines. Those virtual machines now, again, the same kind of concept, are my Docker hosts or my Kubernetes hosts or my, whatever, are my Rancher hosts. But really, it's my Kubernetes engine or Docker engine. So first Proxmox, then on top of that, Ubuntu VM, and then on top of that, I run Docker, Rancher, Kubernetes. So then that's my base. And then on top of that, I deploy containers too. Some containers might be Pi-hole, some containers might be Home Assistant, some containers might be my own custom code. And so I have multiple VMs within there doing these same things. And the way that I restrict, so I have some security set up. The way that I restrict or segregate or separate these is to keep machines that are doing public-facing services totally on a physically different network, physically separated network, virtually, but it's it's a virtual physical network. So anyways, yeah, to answer your question, I do, but I don't spin up a VM with multiple services. I spin up a VM that becomes my Docker host that runs Kubernetes and Rancher, and on there I deploy containers to. And then so those containers then, depending on what they serve, will live on certain VM. And then within there too, you can separate those by namespaces so that they can't communicate with even other pods that are running on that same Kubernetes cluster, if that makes sense. So hopefully soon I'll have something set up on stream that I can assist when I start to talk or diagram things, but hopefully Saturday. But yeah, great question. Brutal GG, it's still a black box, and I'm already solid in Docker. Appreciate the insight. Yeah, no problem at all. TLDR, unless you rate yourself as solid, competent in Linux security practices, working on container security is going to be hard. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, for sure. Joe Philly, I've been using Linux for a long time, but I've never been an admin, really. Just ran servers at home stuff for like 15 years with minimal security concern. Yeah, I mean, that might work for you. I mean, Linux is out of the box, hardened somewhat, right? But there are some things you still want to do that I do. I have a checklist of things when I spin up a new Linux virtual machine that I do, and I'll share that sometimes because it might help. So great insight. Same here. Have I ever been an administrator of Linux machines professionally? I think so. I mean, all of our stuff runs in Google Cloud now. I guess that's Linux. But I've never just been like, yeah, I'm the system admin for Linux stuff. It's just like, hey, we're a small team. We got to do this. But yeah, that's interesting to think about in itself. Chris B. Ward, Portainer is my first go-to container fresh box. Then Gitia and Jenkins. Yeah, nice. I like that you're running Jenkins at home. That's awesome, because that means you're building some software. So that's, yeah, awesome. So Portainer is my first go-to container on a fresh box. Yeah. Mine's Rancher, but yeah, same idea for sure. That's awesome. I keep hearing about Gitia too. I've been a GitLab fan for a long time, but Gitia sounds awesome. Techno, opinion on the whole, if this and that situation. Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit, and it's interesting, that they're, I don't know. I go back and forth in general when companies have to charge, and I say this a lot too, is that like, hey, if you're using a service and you want that company to be around, at some point you're going to have to pay for it, or the company goes away. But, with if this and that, I'm not sure. We talked about that somewhat in Discord. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to talk about because I can see both sides, where people get upset that someone starts charging for something. Kind of stinks if you're using them as a platform and all of a sudden they start charging, and now you got to figure out alternatives now because you're like, great, I invested in your platform. It was free. Granted, it was free. And now, you have whatever data on me, and you've been able to build a better product because I contributed to your product. My contributions were my data. And now you're going to charge for it. And, I can see both sides because, are they charging for it because they're greedy? I don't think so. Are they charging for it because they need to survive as a company? Probably. Or are they charging because they want to do more things and they need more money in order to do that? They need to charge. I don't know, Those are tough questions. I don't know the answer to that. And I can side with either side because I feel their pain. I mean, I use if this and that, but I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and I don't know what their struggles are right now. Is it just to make money? I'm not sure. But yeah, what do you think, Takano? You always ask these I don't want to say charged, but these big open topics about current events. I love it. But you never state your opinion until after we start talking about it. So let me know what you think. Jorge, you just reminded me of a joke. If you run more than one of these, you can run 30 of these comment. When you're programming, there's exactly 3 answers to a question. How many? 0, 1, and infinity. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, there's also the like, what are the 3 hardest things in computer science? It's what, off by 1 errors. I don't know what it is. It's something like off by 1 errors. I think running things in parallel and then naming things. You know, that's those are the 3 hardest things. Well, concurrency, I guess, is running things in parallel. Yeah, I always enjoy the regex one too, but I always mess it up. It's something like, so you solved a problem with regex and now you have 2 problems. Oh, I got it right that time. Usually I mess jokes up all the time. I like laughing at them, but I always mess them up when I tell them. But yeah, for sure. But yeah, going back to the scaling thing, that is a tough question, you know. And like I said, if you can answer it for 2, you can answer it for infinity, you know. But it's one or many, you know. And the one, if you figure it out, awesome. If you figure out the many, yeah, that's the tough part. Because then I mean, as soon as you figure out +1, you're thinking about scale, anytime. Dr. Bell, PhD, I'm excited to see Saturday morning upload from your YouTube channel. Thank you. Your content has got me excited about running more personal projects for my home. MDF. Nice. Yeah, hopefully too. I kind of hinted at what the Saturday is going to be, but the big takeaway, and I'm trying not to spoil it, not that it would spoil anything anyways, but the big takeaway from the Saturday is going to be it ties in a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, and it's going to open up the doors for other things too. As Rancher did, it opened up the doors for me to talk about lots of Docker containers. This is going to help me talk about other things. So yeah, anyways, don't mean to be so nebulous. Brutal GG, what languages do you develop in? Yeah, good question. What do I do now? It's almost 100% JavaScript and TypeScript, almost 100%. What have I done before? I've done C#, I've done VB. So .NET stuff, I've done VB.NET and C#. Java stuff, I've done Java and Kotlin. I've done a little bit of C, and that's only just like modifying stuff. I've done a little bit of Go, and that literally that was like building some little utility because people will say, yeah, it runs so good in Go and it's lightweight and very efficient. I'm talking 100 lines. It's probably not even worth mentioning. But a majority of the stuff I do, JavaScript, TypeScript. And I'd say it's probably 70-30 JavaScript, 30 TypeScript. And that's only because JavaScript's it's super easy for me to write. And I've had a ton of experience with writing it, with writing Node apps or running front ends or writing React Native. It's just, so I've written JavaScript on top of that many different ways because frameworks have you write certain ways. Vanilla JavaScript is totally different. ES6 is totally different, you know, as it was from ES5. So I've written it a lot of different ways too. However the framework told me to write it, I was writing it too. And so I've seen like lots of ins and outs of JavaScript, and I've written it for front end, back end. I mean, the bot that's running in here is, you know, back end Node stuff. My front ends that run everywhere else, or clients that run on Android and iOS are React Native, but they're written in JavaScript. So yeah, mainly it's been my platform lately for a long time has been Node or the browser. Can it run in the browser? Or can it run in Node, which is the Chrome engine? So yeah. Sigor, academy.rancher.org, I think. Oh, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I wasn't even the one that was looking for it. I think someone else had asked me earlier, like, you know, have I done a Rancher certification before? I think it was Chaos Machine. So yeah. Good to know. I should look at it. I should be like, can I be an honorary Rancher certified person? No, I don't think they'd be like, no, this guy, he doesn't even run HA. This guy runs single node Docker. He's, you know, I don't know what they'd say. I don't know. But again, like I'm only scratching the surface. Like if you look at Rancher's repo And you look at their documentation site, I mean, you just look at anything that's branded Rancher, they have so much time and effort put into this. Like, I cannot believe how much they've been able to do. It's incredible. And so a lot of people will ask me too, hey, Rancher or Portainer? You know, that seems to come up a lot. And I give the super, you know, safe answer, which is use what works best for you and use what, you know, you feel comfortable with. If you were using Portainer before, use Portainer 2.0. If you haven't used either, you know, try them both. But I will say that Rancher's been doing this for a very long time. Like, this isn't their first rodeo, you know, pun intended there. And they've been doing this for years and years and years. And they got in the Kubernetes game years ago too. So even on Rancher 1, they support it now. So I'm, you know, yeah. Anyways, I'm just I'm super impressed at what they've been able to do. And you know, they get very little, I guess, publicity about it too. You know, up until like 6 months ago, when you search for Rancher on Google, you would find some cowboy, you know, you'd find a real rancher, you know, some guy in a cowboy hat, you know. That's how bad their SEO was. And it wasn't because they were bad at SEO. It's just because no one was searching and looking for their stuff, I feel like. Or maybe they had bad SEO. I didn't look at their website. But and a lot of new products had this. I just feel like their SEO was bad for a long time, and it's nothing against the product. It's just I feel like, you know, they were going after enterprises, and didn't have a good, I guess, ranking for organic search. People weren't searching for their stuff. So I don't know. Anyways, long story short, not certified. I should look at it, but thank you for filling me in for sure. I should take a look at it. Shuckle Samurai, I'm so happy I got Saturday off. Me too. I always have Saturday off, but I'm glad you have Saturday off. Seems like you don't normally, so I'm glad you do. Build something awesome. That's what I say. Build something awesome. Saturdays are my days for kind of exploring and trying something new. It's always been that way, because I always know like Saturday morning is the day that I don't have. I mean, and obviously unless I have, you know, obligations or something to do, Saturday's always been my day in the morning to do whatever I want to do, whether that be play video games or learn something or do something. So, or finishing whatever I was trying to do Friday night. That's always on the docket though too. But yeah, glad you have it off. Jorge, if you want to chat security stuff, I'm on Tim's Discord under the username. Hit me up. Yeah, we have a security channel. Awesome. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you for that. Breathless bro. I used electrical tape and taped 40-pound dumbbells to each of my feet to walk around. Then I cut those off next week. I'm gonna feel so light. Yeah, man. I bet. Dude, and your calves are gonna be like out of control. You know? For sure, bro. Chaos Machine. Techno Tim, thanks a lot for this detailed answer. It's really nice if you're sitting next to your friend, and then he kicks in an awesome topic presentation, which is useful. Yeah, I totally agree. And he told me before, and I was just kind of like, yeah, Rancher, sure. Not that I didn't trust him, because he's awesome guy and awesome developer too. It was just kind of like, am I going to buy into this thing? I doubt it. And it wasn't nothing to do with what he said or the topic or even Rancher itself. It was just me at the time. I was like, why? But then I understood after the topic and the light bulb went off. I was like, oh yeah, I currently have problems deploying code at home. This could solve everything. And of course, the place we worked at was already using Kubernetes. So I understood how Kubernetes worked. And at the time, Rancher was only using their own orchestration framework, but the idea was the same. They were actually building a competitor to Swarm, kind of, sort of, and to Kubernetes. And then they said, enough of that, we're just going to manage Kubernetes and help you do multi-cloud deployments. So I thought that was awesome. I'm Lymanson, NEXCPG, NG, loving the shatters, everyone, Proxmox, ESSI. No, there's love for XCP-NG. And we talked about it a little bit earlier too, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, but I think there is, for sure. I don't personally use it. At some point I will, for sure. But how's it going? I'm Lymanson. VTC, To me, it's fine to charge for it, but all existing services should remain free. Just charge for whatever new features they've added. Yeah, it's a good way to look at it too. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much. I mean, it probably costs a lot of money. I mean, they're probably running a super expensive business, right? They have tons of integrations. I think most of them are official, maybe some unofficial, who knows? They just have tons of integrations. And just think, like, I can't imagine, I would never want to build a business like that. And it's not because of their business model or anything like that. It's the complexity. Imagine you built a service that had 1,000 contracts for APIs. 1,000, I don't know, maybe more. I don't know how many integrations they have, but they are maintaining an API contract with so many companies and so many services. And those so many companies and so many services are revving, moving, changing, revving, moving, changing. And most of the time, they're probably not thinking about all of the contracts that they've made. API contracts. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But sometimes they might break their API contract with if this and that. And what does that mean? Now all of the users of if this and that had that integration set up are now broken, So, man, hats off to them, because I mean, where I work, we write, contracts for our clients and our APIs, and sometimes that's hard. Sometimes we break them with ourselves. I couldn't imagine doing that with 1,000 companies and 1,000 integrations, because it would be so hard to track down. I mean, it's similar to what Mint does, but I think Mint has 1,000 unofficial APIs. I don't know. Maybe they're using a lot more official APIs now, but most of the time they're using web scrapers and stuff like that to write their own API, because there isn't a public one. So they just write an API against a front end and hopefully it works. But anyways, yeah, I feel for them for sure. I side with them only because I couldn't imagine running that business, and it's got to be expensive, and they have to have a ton of engineers that are working all the time and a huge operations team that is closely monitoring all of the integrations that they have, and then reacting really, really fast when things break. Because when things break, you're not going to be like, okay, let's call up Microsoft OneNote and let's ask them if they can roll back that last change. Because, Microsoft OneNote changed their API, or Google Docs changed their API. Yeah, let's call Google and ask Google if they can roll back that change. No, that's not happening. What they're doing is they're scrambling, and they're saying, I imagine they're scrambling, and they're like, Google just changed their API. Google Docs is broken. We have, 400,000 people who have an integration with, Google Sheets. Write the code now. Let's go. We need to get people back online. It's got to be something like that. And I couldn't imagine. And so I don't know. I've always said, like, and I'll say it still, like, pay for the services, support the companies you want to see survive. I think that's all there is to it, because I get it that, like, everyone wants, everything free. And I agree. It's awesome when you get stuff for free. But it costs that company stuff too. So if you want to see companies around, yeah, for sure, support them. And if they change their pay model, it's mostly not for greed. I try to look at it from I don't know. I try to be optimistic and, look at it, I don't know, from my point of view. Most of the time it's not for greed. It's because they need money to survive. They can't run their company for free all the time, or it gets into weird places where then they got to sell data or do whatever, and so I always say, like, if you enjoy what a company does, whether it's open source or closed source, or they provide some service for you and they have a subscription and you want to help support them and you want them to be around in 10 years, I say, why not, and most of the time, it's a fraction of what you pay on one coffee per day for the whole month. So anyways, I don't mean to digress, but it's something as I get a little bit older, I think about those kinds of things. And it's everywhere right now. It's not just big companies, it's small companies too. It's content creators, it's everything, They could go away at any point in time. So anyways, that's my life tip. Which is probably not popular opinion on the internet. So I get that. But that's kind of how I feel, you know. Techno, they also get paid for services they get added to. You know, I also see both sides, but it seems more like a money-making deal rather than the company is about to die. With Wise, the reasoning is that the cloud, AI, person detection is not cheap. I get that. And the $20 cam won't be able to pay for itself since the margin is low. I totally agree with that. So on the Wise cam point of view too. And plus, I think we talked about this in Discord, like, I think they made a big bet on a company that got bought by Apple too, you know? But I mean, I don't know what goes on behind if this and that's doors. You know, I was just thinking like super high level about companies that, you know, have a free model, but then have to start monetizing. And it usually means because they either want to do things they can't do now without some capital, or that they're not doing so well and they need to stop bleeding cash. I mean, those are my only, or like you said, or it is a cash grab. But I don't know. I don't know. Is that, I don't know. Maybe. My favorite one is the two hardest things about programming are naming conventions and other programmers. I've never heard that one, but I like it. I'll have to say that to my buddies tomorrow. Takano, but then I can see why people would get mad at Wise since they promise for free person detection, free on the camera. Yeah, Wise, yep. And with if this and that, $10 a month is pricey for a couple of API calls for most people, since I don't have a ton of applets. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, maybe $10 a month is too much if you have one or two integrations. Then you just wonder if you have one or two integrations and you're using if this and that for it. I say write it yourself. Write the code yourself. That's what I do. I used to use if this and that for tons of stuff. And it was more for fun. You know, it was more for fun. Like, hey, when I, you know, the one I do appreciate, I will say, I still use to this day is on Spotify, there's a way to archive my Discovery playlist, all the songs from it, to another archive so that I have one big archive of all of my Discovery playlist songs. It's probably the only one I use to this day. Other than that, I wrote the code myself because, like I said, like those things can go away, and I don't know. I'd rather program it directly against an API and look at it and see when things go wrong and fix it myself. But I know that's not everyone can do that. But yeah, aren't there are competitors out there? Doesn't even Microsoft has one? Google has one coming up too. But who knows if they'll have. The nice thing about if this and that is they're semi-neutral. If you pull a Microsoft in there, a Google or an Amazon or an Apple, you know they're not going to, you know, do justice to those other products. Maybe. OM Orange, Rancher Boss. I don't feel like it. But yeah, hopefully. VTCN Portainer 2 just come out now. It's Kubernetes support. Absolutely. I did a video on it. And I talked to them about it. I think it was Neil. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I totally agree. Super awesome that they decided to go with Kubernetes now, because I think it's the right way to go. Jenna Ryan, free API is never free. I agree. People say that all the time. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I agree. So like some people, someone's paying for something somewhere, and if you're not paying, somehow they're making money off you, or you're giving them something that they need, that then they make money off of it. Also, most companies are not moving a lot of money, doing 3% plus that 30 per CC charge. Yeah. Munzi, who did Apple buy? Oh, this is what we were talking about earlier. I don't know, Shaunar? I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's the AI/machine learning company that I think Wise was going to use for their cameras to be able to do, I think, face detection. I think that's where the Google took me, and if I recall it correctly. But yeah, so, and I think that's who Wise was going with, right, Takano? You got to keep me honest on this stuff. BTCN, LOL Discovery Weekly Archive is the one I use as well. Yeah, because it was like, if I ever forget, like, because I mean, I love Spotify and I listen to my Discover Weekly like every every Monday. And it's one thing I'm like, yes, Monday, new playlist from Spotify. Mine this week was kind of weak, but I know why it was. I need to start disliking songs. Me, I'm just like, I just don't play them as much, and I figure those are good signals to Spotify, but they're not. So I need to start like disliking songs, so I can train the algorithm better. But anyways, that's the one I use. Because then if like next week I'm like, oh crap, what was that song? I want to hear it again. I can go back to my archive. But yeah. Dr. Bell, PhD, you nailed it, man. You nailed it. And plus I got something in this eye. I was saying earlier, like, oh, my eyes are so dried. Yeah, I got something in this eye and it's totally burning me. So yeah, good call on that. Techno, it's the onboard person detection they use, but Apple bought it and out, and they had to revoke it from the firmware. Yeah, super interesting. I'm curious what Apple's going to do too. I mean, obviously they're going to come out with some kind of camera system or build something into FaceTime or build something into a phone. It's most likely going to go into an Apple product. Whether that's new or not is to be determined. But yeah, good call, Dr. Bell. I'm not so much tired. It's just like this eye is burning. But I've been in some long meetings today, and obviously this one is awesome one that I want to attend. But I am gonna have to call it quits. Man, thank you guys so much for follows, for chatting, for real. Chatting, I love when you guys chat. I said this earlier that like I always want to keep this stream open to you guys, so I love it when you guys chat because it's just like good conversation, things we can talk about. I may not always have the best answers or the right answers, so I appreciate you guys calling it out when you know it, because it just makes this whole entire channel better. If you want to continue the conversation and you're new here, we have a Discord server. A couple of people have mentioned it. It's !Discord. If you run that command, you'll see the link, or it's down below, and then or it's right there. Hey, real quick, Elrad178, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. But yeah, if you want to hop in Discord, you can totally continue the conversation there. We have channels on a lot of topics. I'm not an expert in all those topics. I'm probably not an expert in any of them except for maybe the one that's just me. But anyways, we have a lot of people in there talk about a lot of different topics. And so if you want to join that conversation, it's there for you to do. Yeah, Takano, I went slow on it too. Do you see? I was just like, if you want to join our Discord, I was like, all right, let's see if I'll beat them. But yeah. Thank you for doing that. And then, yeah, join the conversation there. I will be back on Saturday. Today's Thursday. I'll be back on Saturday, 3 CST, and have a new video coming out Saturday morning. So I really appreciate it. You guys have a great night. If you're anywhere near fire, be safe. Even if you're not near fire, be safe. And I will see you guys Saturday. Have a great night. Thank you so much for everything, and take care.